Imagine. You wake up in the morning, and before you can wipe the sleep away from your eyes, the world begins to remind you that you are a problem and you don't belong. You are the reason the world is a terrible place. You drag yourself out of bed and open your phone only to see news articles that say you and people like you are what's wrong with the world. You get dressed, fight traffic to get to your job, while the disembodied voice on your radio tells you over and over again, you are a problem and you don't belong. You get to your job and sit through a mandatory training session that tells you that you are a problem and you don't belong. You go to lunch with your work team and are forced to sit quietly while your coworkers tell you that you are a problem and you don't belong. You get back to your desk and look at the office TV, only to hear it repeating the message that you are a problem and you don't belong. You put your head down and try to make it through the rest of the day, trying to ignore the voices at the water cooler whispering that you are a problem and you don't belong. You fight traffic again to get home, passing billboards that remind you that you are a problem and you don't belong. You get home, open social media, and see even old friends posting that you are a problem and you don't belong. You respond as civilly as you can, trying to put your frustration into words, trying to defend yourself from the constant attacks, shouting into the void, hoping someone will care enough to hear you, pouring your heart out to the people you've known for years. They know me, you think. Surely they'll come to my defense, you think. But then they too turn against you and attack you for speaking up for yourself. You're not allowed to do that, because now, to them, you are a problem and you don't belong. So you put your phone down, attempt to escape the endless barrage, make yourself dinner, turn on the TV, try to distract yourself, try to tune out the noise. And just as you exhale and prepare to enjoy a few precious moments away from your reality, the escape you turn to for peace tells you yet again that you are a problem and you don't belong. So you change the channel, but there it is again, and again, and again. Almost every broadcaster, almost every character, almost every commercial, almost every advertisement, pouring salt on your wounds, mocking your pain, enjoying your misery, and justifying it all, because you are a problem and you don't belong. You drag yourself to bed thinking, surely tomorrow will be better. But then you wake up and the next day is exactly the same. Over and over, rinse and repeat. You are unwanted. You are to blame. The world would be a better place without you. All around you, you see people of other races being lifted up and catered to. They get to be heard. Their voices are amplified. They get respect. They win the awards. They get standing ovations. They're told they matter. But not you. Never you. You are a problem and you don't belong. All because you're a straight person and the color of your skin is white. This nightmare has become reality for far too many straight white people in 2022. But the minute a straight white person today stands up for themselves and their people and acknowledges they are increasingly being ostracized from society, they're accused of promoting the white replacement theory. I've noticed it, and many others have noticed it too. But this accusation is inaccurate, because the white replacement theory isn't a theory at all. The white replacement theory is a fact, and it's time to explain why. I'm Damani Felder. Welcome to the Wright Brothers. When I started working on this video, I originally planned to give a long-winded backstory on the origins of the white replacement theory. But as I kept writing, I realized what would be far more effective would be talking about what the white replacement theory is not. If you were to ask Google, the most unbiased and upstanding search engine in all of human history, what the white replacement theory is, it would tell you it's a set of ideas that originated sometime in the 20th century. The theory is that non-white people, outsiders, strangers, or foreigners will overtake the United States and other countries over time via immigration, reproduction, and seizure of political power, thus leading to the extinction of the white race as we know it. You'd be told that white people who bring attention to their own shrinking numbers are the racists who don't deserve to be heard or acknowledged. You'd be force-fed articles cherry-picking white violence of late to give further credence to the apparent virulence of this theory. And if you weren't careful, you'd come away from your research convinced that straight white people are the most existential threat to the human race and should go extinct as soon as possible. You'd bristle at any white person who dared to mention that they feel marginalized or diminished, and you'd feel justified every step of the way, which is exactly how the media would want you to react. One of the favorite tactics of the left is taking a complex topic and boiling it down to a singular line item or catchphrase, and then using that contrived line item or catchphrase as a cudgel to wield or chant to be screamed at anyone they identify as having unacceptable views. They've done it with particular regularity with the words racist, homophobic, and xenophobic over the years. The white replacement theory encompasses all three of those aforementioned words, and therefore is viewed with utter contempt by liberals around the world. Many leftists rush to accuse straight white people of clinging to the white replacement theory and using it as a shield for bigotry and xenophobia. But what's really going on? Let's strip away all the noise and nuance and understand the words themselves. A theory is defined by Merriam-Webster as a hypothesis assumed for the sake of argument or investigation. A hypothesis is an idea or explanation that must be tested through study. A fact is defined as something that has actual existence, a piece of information presented as having objective reality. Remember those definitions because they're key to understanding why I chose to call the white replacement theory a fact instead of a theory. What I have to do now is explain the actual existence and objective reality of the phenomenon, as it were, and I intend to do exactly that. What the left and mainstream media have done slowly over time is deliberately conflate the act of observation and voicing your opinion with the act of discrimination and unilateral hatred. And here's what I mean. Any person who points to black-on-black crime statistics as a rebuttal to the BLM agenda is branded as a de facto racist. Speak up for unborn children? You must be a misogynist. Disagree with illegal immigration? You're a xenophobe. Believe in traditional marriage? You're definitely homophobic. Proud of your home country? You're a fascist. And so on and so forth. It's a formulaic rebuttal requiring no critical thinking or deductive reasoning whatsoever. By using these contrived insults to silence all detractors, leftists have been hoping that eventually their intentional antagonization would push white people to a point where they feel that the only way to be heard is with violence. Violence that, regardless of provocation, would serve as the self-fulfillment of the labels the left has preemptively placed on white people without just cause. The past several years have inundated the average person with overt, race-based propaganda meant to divide, inflame, and incite racial violence and hatred. Recently, we've seen hashtags come and go extolling the virtues of Asian people, black people, indigenous peoples, Hispanic people, and the list goes on, but never any positive acknowledgement of white people. And this campaign has actually been quite successful, just not in the way the left really wanted. If anything, the number of attacks on white people has increased in recent years. Nearly every person on the planet has had to scroll through endless social media postings or advertisements that bend over backwards to liberally apply the salve of virtue signaling on the healing or long-healed wounds of the past. And yet, while straight white people continue to be attacked, demeaned, and marginalized on a daily basis, the race war this clearly was meant to spark has not yet come to fruition. What leftists will never directly admit is that they're incredibly frustrated that everything they've tried so far hasn't ushered in the civil war they so desperately crave. One everyone knows they're ill-equipped to win, as it were. It's no secret that they've jumped swiftly to condemn white perpetrators of large-scale violence in recent years and turn a blind eye to the disproportionately larger volumes of crimes committed by minorities. This has been intentionally done in a long, calculated attempt to paint white people into a corner and provoke them until they come out swinging, at which point leftists would feel justified in using the government to act as their protective shield and arm of retribution. Because again, modern leftists are the antithesis of battle-ready individuals. So they've done all they can to enrage their apparent adversaries, much in the same way a child hiding behind a parent incites their sibling to provoke misbehavior unseen and then masquerades as the angelic victim. This provocation is regularly seen by the manner in which many social justice campaigns and programs begin. They're intentionally presented in a way that's calculated enough to obscure the true intentions behind them. We hear the buzzwords and catchphrases all the time. We want blank to look more like our country. This is a prime example of code speak. Because if that truly was the goal, then only 13% of the workforce would be black. Black people would represent roughly 13% of the figures we see in entertainment. And Black people would be consistently portrayed by the media in the stereotypical manner in which liberals have trained them to act. And yes, I said trained, because the minute a person of color doesn't act the way leftists expect them to act, those same loving, tolerant, accepting liberals won't hesitate to do everything in their power to cut that anomaly down in short order. We'll revisit this specifically in just a bit. The hard truth is that anytime you hear the line, "we want blank to look more like our country," the clear and unequivocal translation is, "we want to have fewer white people here." Further credence to this apparent desire is the disproportionate representation of all but one figure in our world today, and that figure is the straight white person. It is this stark and painfully obvious status quo that many straight white people have begun calling into question, and rightfully so. Acknowledging that your race is diminishing and seeing that as cause for concern doesn't make you a white supremacist, nor does it mean you deserve to be automatically marginalized and demonized as a xenophobic person. But the deliberate representational omission only seems to increase whenever these issues are brought to the fore of public discourse. Many people, themselves white as well, consistently laud efforts of continued racial overrepresentation and cheer the loudest at the shrinking numbers of straight white people in general. Why would someone cheer for the slow extinction of their own race? Again, it is because the white replacement theory is not a theory. The white replacement theory is a fact. But let's go deeper by asking the following question. What is a white person in the eyes of the left? And what exactly might they actually be trying to replace? Is it the person? Or could it be something else altogether? To answer those questions, first we need to precisely dissect the notion that people of other races or mixed races are replacing white people at all. The reason the white replacement theory has become such a lightning rod is because it has been mischaracterized as a fear of visible racial extinction, a fear of individuals who might be seen as nothing more than their skin color, people of other races who fall in lockstep with the Democrat agenda, which again is what Democrats are training minorities to do. And that fear, one could argue, could potentially be justified because the left has made it abundantly clear that their perfect minority is someone who riots without cause, claims victimhood at every turn, and who hates white people with every fiber of their being. Here's the thing though, you can't replace a white person per se. Being white is an immutable characteristic that will continue in perpetuity. But you can replace ideologies. Ideas are mutable, fully able to be warped. And that is what's at the core of the left's agenda. But instead of categorically confronting specific ideas, leftists prefer to reduce their adversaries to the easiest common denominator. So instead of addressing what they really despise, they've bundled up everything they hate about conservative ideology and simply ascribed all those values to whiteness. Think about it. This is why leftists routinely accuse minorities who espouse conservative values of acting white. It's the ultimate reveal of what leftists clearly believe whiteness is. Whiteness is conservatism. That is what they want to replace. Being white has become the grossest oversimplification and marginalization. Because to the left, being white has errantly become synonymous with the ideological values they despise. Values like patriotism, national pride, maintenance of the nuclear family, protecting the unborn, and so on and so forth. Interestingly enough, and to the probable surprise of many leftists, people of many other races also share in these ideals. But the left has shoved all of these values under the convenient umbrella of whiteness and then cheered at the visible shrinkage of the representation of the invisible ideologies they loathe. Of course, leftists would cheer at the news of diminishing whiteness, because they believe that it is the whiteness itself and the whiteness only that is at the core of these ideals. Otherwise, white leftists would be alarmed to see those of their own skin color shrinking in numbers as well. If whiteness was truly the cardinal sin, then simple logic would indicate that even white leftists would need to be extinguished at some point. But we all know they're not going anywhere. Because in the left's ideology, regardless of how contradictory it seems to those with common sense, the best thing a white leftist can do, and the best way to protect or promote themselves, is to fully embrace an agenda that shamelessly props up minorities. When this is done with precision, those very same minorities who have internalized the propaganda will ironically amplify the voices of the white people preaching the message. even though those white people claim to be against their own skin color. It's completely backwards. But it makes sense when you remember that, again, their agenda has nothing to do with replacing skin color and everything to do with replacing social ideology. Leftists frequently accuse white people of harboring simmering hatred for those of other races. This is incontrovertibly untrue. And let me tell you why. If you asked 99% of white people who love and are proud to be Americans what their thoughts would be if they gained a black son or daughter-in-law who also loved and was proud of being American, they would respond that the skin color of their prospective new family member wouldn't be an issue at all. Because it's not even about the skin color. It's about the values and ideas behind that skin color, including white, that matter most. It's about the content of their character, not the color of their skin. And what the left hopes is that white people will begin to subconsciously play the other side, seeing people of other races as only individuals who align with the left's ideology, and getting white people to view them with contempt, not based on the color of their skin, but based on the ideas these people of other races would have been trained to hold. And then the left could pounce on said white people for hating minorities and fearing they'll be replaced, when it is less the skin color replacement that is feared, but rather the ideologies of traditionalism and conservatism, which founded this country, being wholly replaced. The creation of two opposing sides who grossly misunderstand each other is all the left needs to initiate a full-blown culture war, which we know is their end goal. The left is training minorities who come to America to view it as a place where they'd be hated by white people, which is an ironic sales pitch if you think about it. Because why would people want to come to a place that hates them before they even arrive? And the answer is because the left has been working to create a society where minorities can claim perpetual victimhood under this false specter of hatred from white people. And when minorities notice that it is more advantageous to be a victim than to be a victor, then the left can weaponize these baselessly aggrieved people who now believe a false ideology against their false adversaries, thus perpetuating the lie, fomenting further interracial anger and strife, and creating a deeper and wider ideological rift. Because again, you can't replace a person, but you can replace the prevailing ideology if you just give it enough time. And that is exactly what the left has sought to do in the West. This is evident by observing what happens when someone simply dares to say three little words: white lives matter. How is it that America has become a place so intolerant of white people that merely stating that their lives matter is a problem? For years, we've seen the most pious white people wearing Black Lives Matter shirts with reckless abandon to proclaim their support for a fraudulent organization built on a foundation of lies. But the minute a black person acknowledges that white lives matter, they're to be mocked and ridiculed? The ridicule itself is proof enough that the powers that be care not one iota about white lives in this country, especially not straight white lives. And the predictable outrage from the left over the phrase white lives matter continues to be the clearest evidence of exactly that. Simply acknowledging that this current culture is the status quo in what you see with your own eyes every day doesn't make you a bigot or white supremacist or a xenophobe. What it makes you is a realist in a world full of fakeness. And that's what the other side hates most of all. Because they've traded reality for authenticity, truth for lies, and facts for feelings. Their conditioning didn't work on you. Their harassment didn't work on you either. And they can't stand against you. So they work tirelessly to tear you down and silence your voice and presence at every turn. For example, on August 12, 2021, Washington Post opinion columnist Jennifer Rubin tweeted out an article highlighting the fact that the number of white people in the US had declined for the first time since the census started being taken in 1970. But it's not the article itself that infuriated me. It was the caption she added to her tweet. She wrote, "A more diverse, more inclusive society. This is fabulous news. We need to prevent minority white rule." Now think about this. Why would Jennifer Rubin, a white woman herself, cheer this news so publicly? Why would someone rejoice at the prospect of a diminished collective legacy? Why do we continue to see similar articles pushed to the front of our news feeds? Why does it never stop? It is because the white replacement theory isn't a theory at all. The white replacement theory is a fact. We live in a day and age where people find it perfectly acceptable to viciously attack white people for posting pictures of their families online for no other reason than the color of their skin. Where minorities call white people mayo monkeys and other derogatory slurs. Where colleges and universities proudly promote black-only spaces, segregated graduations, and similar ostracizing events. Where people suggest hurricane relief funds be distributed based on equity. Where candidates running for office talk about wanting to subjugate white people and keep them under their thumbs, and so on and so forth. But those in power press on undeterred, not realizing that their policies themselves are all the proof we need that their goal is the gradual extinction of straight white people. They deny and prevaricate all day, every day, but their continued efforts indicate that the white replacement theory isn't a theory. The white replacement theory is a fact. And they will continue to pretend that none of this is happening, that what you see going on isn't what's going on. Because in the words of George Orwell's 1984, the party told them to ignore the evidence of their eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command. And the whole point of this video can be summed up one final time by going back to the intro and changing the word straight for gay and the word white for black. If you'd have a problem with that, you should have a problem with the treatment our straight white brothers and sisters are subjected to every day here in America. Instead of attacking them for simply existing, try listening and allowing them to speak up for themselves. Their skin color isn't at risk of being replaced. It is their ideologies that are under constant attack. And if you allow yourself to listen, you'll hear them indicate exactly this. Or you can choose not to hear them, to tune them out. But just know that every time you don't listen, every time you cut them off, every time you attack them for their ideals, but do so under the false pretenses of hating their skin color, you're only confirming that the white replacement theory isn't a theory, and that the white replacement theory is a fact. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video and invite you to like, share, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for more content as we continue to produce the thought-provoking videos you've come to expect from us. Find myself and my brother on social media and join us as we continue to challenge the status quo. Special thanks to our patrons. We couldn't do this without y'all, and we appreciate you more than you'll ever know. But until next time, y'all take care. I'm Damani Felder, and I'll catch you in the next one.
The first revolution is when you change your mind about how you look at things and see that there might be another way to look at it that you have not been shown. The revolution will not be televised, and be no rerun, brothers and sisters. The revolution will be live.